This week, hacking the unhackable USB sticks, how to brick all Samsung mobile phones, how Twitter shared user location data through advertising, a zero-day flaw used to install spyware on phones, and a Linux kernel flaw that allows remote code execution. In the expert commentary, we welcome Marcin Szary. He's the CTO at SecFence. We're going to talk about web authentication and getting rid of those pesky passwords. All that and more on this episode of Hack Naked News.
This is Security Weekly, for security professionals, by security professionals. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show that brings you the security news each week. And despite popular belief, we do wear pants. It's Hack Naked News. Let the team at Black Hills Information Security test your defenses. With over 10 years of experience in penetration testing, red teaming, and threat hunting, the testers at Black Hills will help you find the holes in your security before the bad guys do. The team at Black Hills cares about educating and sharing their knowledge by creating countless blogs, open source tools, and webcasts for you to learn more about the tradecraft of pen testing and red teaming. Visit securityweekly.com/BHIS to join their mailing list and view the latest blogs and webcasts from Black Hills Information Security. Well, welcome everyone. It's Hack Naked News, episode 218 for May 14th, 2019. I'm, of course, your host, Paul Asadorian. You can register for our upcoming webcast with Kaseya, SaltStack, and Domain Tools by going to securityweekly.com/webcast. If you've missed any of our previously recorded webcasts, they are in our on-demand library at securityweekly.com/on-demand. And now it's time for the security news. Hacking the unhackable eyeDisk USB stick. The eyeDisk USB stick, for those that don't know, uses iris recognition to unlock the drive. It's advertised as the unhackable USB flash drive. And if our listeners probably are aware of where this is going, anytime someone says something is unhackable, it's like a call to action. We all break out our keyboards and other kinds of USB hacking tools or whatever that device is, and we try and hack it. So instead of being unhackable, it does reveal the device's password in plain text. And then the researcher was able to use Wireshark, of course, USB PCAP function, to sniff packets from USB stick in real time and discovered that the command descriptor block, or CDB, that's not CBD, that's something totally different. The CDB, to send commands to and from the device, the traffic generated while he was unlocking the device, included a string that represented his password. Essentially, inside the device was a USB hub that had a camera connected to it and the device, and he's able to do some sniffing. He also tried to take a picture of himself and use that to unlock the iris scanning, which did not work. He also tried to use his kids' iris scans to do it, and that did not work. And then he broke out the USB sniffer and was able to hack it. And the company, their response, yeah, they're not fixing it. So don't go thinking one of those is secure. An expert has discovered how to brick all Samsung mobile phones. Basically, the researchers have created a loop on the phone that continually locks the containers, making the phone unusable. So in the proof of concept from the researcher's website, he sent two intents every second. These are like calls to different containers on the phone. After opening the app the first time, the app icon will disappear. This is his malicious app that he puts on the phone. As a consequence, the device is then inoperable due to a local denial of service. Every time the victim opens the secure folder app, the container will be locked. And every time you'll try to use your phone, it will come back to the first page of the launcher, not letting you use your phone. The technical description of how this app was created is all on the researcher's website. Samsung is in the same camp as iUSB this week in that they're like, yeah, we're not fixing it. So much for security this week. Twitter accidentally shares user location data with advertising agents. They said on Monday, may have accidentally collected and shared location data of some users accessing their app through Apple devices with an advertising partner. In a blog post, the social media platform said information was collected but not retained and only existed in their systems for a short time, and have informed people whose accounts were impacted to let them know that the bug has been fixed. The advertising partner did not receive data such as the user's Twitter handle or other unique account IDs that could have compromised the identity. I guess that was a really boring story. I apologize for that. Moving on. Cybersecurity skills shortage is still the root cause of rising security incidents. Now, there are some things that I agree with in this article. The title is not one that I agree with. However, there were some really smart people that had really smart things to say in this article. And I quote, organizations are looking at the cybersecurity skills crisis in the wrong way. It's a business, not a technical issue. Business executives need to acknowledge that they have a key role to play in addressing this problem by investing in their people. In an environment of a seller's market with 77% of cybersecurity professionals solicited at least once per month, the research shows that in order to retain and grow cybersecurity professionals at all levels, business leaders need to get involved by building a culture of support for security and value the function, said Candy Alexander, CSSP, an executive cybersecurity consultant and ISSA international president. There's also a quote in the article that says, I do not believe the skills shortage causes security incidents. Oh, that's my quote. Sorry. I don't believe that it causes security incidents, people not applying patches, updates, configurations, and of course, weak passwords, credentials, default passwords, and password reuse more often than not lead to security incidents, not the lack of talent. There is absolutely no evidence in the article whatsoever to suggest that the skills shortage is in fact to blame for people being hacked. Hackers used a WhatsApp zero-day flaw to secretly install spyware on phones. According to an advisory published by Facebook, nonetheless, a buffer overflow vulnerability in WhatsApp VoIP stack allows remote attackers to execute arbitrary code on target phones by sending a specially crafted series of SRTCP packets. Apparently, the vulnerability is identified as CVE 2019-3568. It can successfully be exploited to install spyware and steal data from targeted Android phone or iPhone by merely placing a WhatsApp call. And even when the call is not answered, also, the victim would not be able to find out about the intrusion afterwards, as the spyware erases the incoming call information from the logs in order to operate stealthily. A flaw affecting millions of Cisco devices lets attackers implant persistent backdoors. Dub Thrangry Cat, or I can't even say it because they're emoticons. So not only this exploit or vulnerability rather has a name of Thangry Cat, it doesn't have a logo, but it has emoticons. This is a new trend. Apparently, if you discover a new vulnerability, you get to choose a custom emoticon for it. I can't wait. The vulnerability was discovered by researchers from the security firm Red Balloon and is identified as CVE 2019-1649, affecting multiple Cisco products that support the Trust Anchor module. The Trust Anchor module is a hardware-based secure boot functionality implemented in almost all Cisco enterprise devices since 2013. Its job is to ensure the firmware running on the hardware platforms is authentic and unmodified. And while you may take refuge in that fact and think your devices are safe, researchers have found a series of hardware design flaws that could allow an authenticated attacker to make a persistent modification to the Trust Anchor module via the FPGA bitstream modification and load a malicious bootloader. That was so nerdy. I'm like excited that I got to say that on the show. It was so nerdy. And Cisco, of course, says, well, you need to be authenticated. And so Red Balloon said, well, that's fine. We have a remote exploit for Cisco iOS and executed this attack. Essentially, let someone plant malware inside of the firmware, potentially also the bootloader as well, or trick your bootloader into running firmware that an attacker has poisoned with malware. A remote code execution vulnerability is impacting SQLite, tracked as to CVE 2019-5018, and featuring a CVS score of, drumroll please, 8.1. The vulnerability resides in the window function functionality of SQLite 3.260 and 3.270. To trigger the flaw, an attacker would need to send a specially crafted SQL command to the victim, which could allow them to execute code remotely. The popular SQLite library, of course, is a client-side database management system in widespread use on mobile devices, browsers, hardware devices, and user applications, according to the team at Cisco Talos, who broke the news about the vulnerability. A Linux kernel flaw allows remote code execution. Linux kernel versions prior to 5.0.8 are affected by this vulnerability, which carries a CVE of CVE 2019-11815. There'll be a quiz at the end of the show where you'll have to match CVE numbers to their respective vulnerabilities. This one, CVE 2019-11815, exists in the RDS TCP kill sock in net RDS TCP.c. There's a race condition leading to a use after free vulnerability, according to the CVE description. The Linux kernel issued a new version on April 17th, but the bug itself was not widely reported until now. Distributions, of course, Debian, Red Hat, SUSE, Ubuntu have issued updates in the last week. It's pretty neat. Attackers can exploit this bug by sending, again, specially crafted. If you can specially craft things, you could own everything, apparently, this week. So sending specially crafted TCP packets remotely to trigger the use after free situation related to the net namespace cleanup is what the advisory is detailing. Use after free, of course, is, class of memory corruption, blah, 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 blah. Execute arbitrary code is ultimately the end result if you get it to work. We'll take a short break, come back for expert commentary with Marcin from SecFence. Stay tuned. The question is simple. Have any of the systems on my network been compromised? The answer is harder than it should be. Enter AI Hunter. Active Countermeasures has automated and streamlined techniques used by the best pen testers and threat hunters in the industry to create AI Hunter, a network threat hunting solution that does the first pass of a hunt for you to identify systems that are most likely to be compromised and scores the results on a scale from 0 to 100. You can then research those systems in depth with AI Hunter. Focus your valuable time on the systems that need your expertise with AI Hunter. Sign up for a personal demo today at securityweekly.com/ACM. Welcome back, everyone, to Hack Naked News. I'd like to welcome Marcin Szary. Marcin from SecFence is here. He's the CTO and one of the founders. We're going to talk about web authentication and getting rid of those pesky passwords. Marcin, welcome to the show.
Hello, hi, Paul. It's good to be on the show. And I was just thinking that most things in this world have their supporters and opponents, but I actually couldn't think of anyone who likes passwords. So I don't know about you, but I truly hate these bastards. But,
like from the most, you're right, Marcin, like from the most advanced users to the casual user who has an iPhone and even has to put a PIN code in, which is essentially a password or passcode, I would more accurately, everyone hates it. It's true.
Exactly. They've been with us for like 60 years. And I've read somewhere that even at the very beginning of this very first password-based schema, it was this computer at MIT, it was flawed by design. I mean, there was this guy that exploited the first password system with the punch card. He actually put a program on the punch card, inserted this punch card into the machine, and printed plain text passwords from the machine. So, some companies still keep these passwords in plain text. But anyway, so it was bad from the same beginning. Yep. So we've been waiting like 60 years for some technology. I don't know if you remember how many times there was this promise of technology that would liberate us from this pain. but I don't know how many, but many.
It comes up, and I feel like now. So there has been a history, Marcin, and I will back you up on that point of a lot of people, a lot of companies and technologies going, we're going to get rid of the password, right? I mean, it started with the fingerprint readers and on the phones and things like that, but nothing up until now, I believe, really is positioned to replace the password. And there's a lot of great technology, yours included, that is really poised to get rid of the password in many cases.
Hopefully, yeah, because there was this, I call them waves of hope. The first wave of hope was this social login, like federated logins. You could trust these tech behemoths that they would keep your identity secure, so you can introduce it to other third-party apps.
Yep.
But then again, you would have to trust them that they would keep their infrastructure secure, or at least hash your password.
Right.
And respect your privacy. That didn't work well for enterprise businesses. Didn't like that bring your own identity trend.
Yep.
And again, there was another wave of hope. Is these password managers, right? Like the idea of replacing hundreds of passwords with a single one. But again, this is like this one ring to rule them all dilemma. And there was this report recently made by guys from independent security evaluators. They've covered like fundamental flaws in almost every major password manager. They've actually discovered that master passwords in most of the managers were kept in plain text again. So even if you have a great concept,
your mileage varies depending on which password manager that you're using, and oftentimes the managers themselves are a victim of the platform that they're running on. Right? We've seen this with very secure applications like Signal and LastPass, for example. They're victims of the environment that they're in, and sometimes it's not a flaw in the code itself from LastPass, but because you're using it in a browser plugin.
Yeah,
and it's not a perfect solution. It's the best of what we have today. I still encourage people to use a password manager, but it still doesn't get rid of passwords, right? Like you still have passwords.
Yes,
they're just stored in this encrypted, system, but they're still there, and anyone that uses LastPass knows it's not perfect, right? It doesn't always fill in, and when your password changes or the URL changes, you get like 3 passwords for the same site anyway.
Yeah, exactly. My idea was that even such a great concept like a password manager, it all comes down to securing this goddamn secret, and something that can be easily shoulder surfed while you're sipping your cappuccino in Starbucks. So it was like flowed by design, but not by the password managers themselves. But okay, so we've been waiting these 60 years, and Paul, it seems like we're finally there. And I'm talking about the technology that is natively supported by most of the devices, and it doesn't expect us to remember anything. It's built on good old cryptographic primitives. And it's actually a breeze to use. And it's called web authentication, by the way, or WebAuthn for short, or FIDO2. And it's a bit of a mess in naming, but I will explain that. So what is it? So WebAuthn is this open standard for creating and accessing public key credentials on the web to enable like strong authentication for users. And it's a specification actually written by W3C guys and the FIDO Alliance, like the consortium of companies such as Google, Ubico, Microsoft, MasterCard, Bank of America, and many other big boys. And somehow they agreed to keep the standard open. But they've been working on it since 2013. And boom, 6 years later, it's available for everyone. And there's this naming confusion. Like FIDO is the name of the consortium, but FIDO2 is actually the name of the project for this like modern passwordless.
Right, and this isn't a two-factor authentication. You're essentially using a component of two-factor authentication to be the one factor, right? So I can prove that I can encrypt some data, and that authenticates me. Is that essentially how it works?
Yeah, because the main goal with FIDO2 was to create this passwordless future. But a side project, a side effect was for those that, for these guys that are not ready yet to go fully passwordless, FIDO2 also allows you to create this multi-factor authentication layer with all these components that are already there. So yeah, my point is that every component, if you're a developer right now, you can create a truly passwordless experience for your users because everything is already there. And every element of Web of 10. But yeah, so it's a passwordless in the first place, but as a side effect, you can create on your own or with other technologies. You can create this layer of second factor on top of your existing.
And Marcin, the user in this case just needs to essentially have something like a YubiKey or some kind of soft token, right?
Yes. Exactly. Yeah, the experience part is amazing. It was always an obstacle when you wanted to enhance the security for users. They always were resistant. But with FIDO2, the experience is amazing. You can have this like Yubico manufactured key, or this. If you are too paranoid, you can have this open source key called Solo Key. You can actually build your own key and have this single key built for the internet, and you can create as many identities online as you wish. And it's as simple as tapping the ring on the key in this situation. But Web of 10 is actually a broader term. You can use existing authenticators in your phone, like fingerprint scanner that you already use to unlock your phone. Or Retina scanner, hopefully not the one you've mentioned at the beginning of the show, but
right.
it was the USB one. But so you can use existing authenticators. So the idea is to use local authenticators not only to unlock your machine, but to create and then authenticate your identities online with the same experience you have for unlocking your device. And the idea is beautiful. And again, the privacy part is beautiful. So there was always this when you dealt with biometrics, you always had this feeling that you wouldn't like to share this with anyone, right? So with Web of 10, your authenticator stays local, but when you register your identity, you create like a virtual identity for this particular application. So it's the identity is isolated. So you can create as many identities for different apps. There is no way to link them because the protocol was designed this way. And again, so privacy was something like a pillar of this specification.
Yeah, so it solves the problem where my password is stored somewhere, whatever I'm logging into. Someone breaks into that database or whatever, and they can retrieve my password. In WebAuthn, that condition does not exist.
Yeah, it's a huge step. There's no shared secret. So with passwords, even though it was like hashed shared secret with two-factor authentication like Google Authenticator, you'd have to keep the shared secret. So if the attacker somehow breached the system and took this shared secret, he could impersonate the user, either directly by having the seed for Google Authenticator or by cracking the password, which is, we know how simple this is. And with the public key infrastructure, which is the building block of this specification, it's, if the attacker gets the database, he gets nothing. He gets public keys and some like key handles, which are nothing. So he cannot gain any advantage over for breaching this.
The developers just basically need this WebAuthn system or code to implement in their application. The user just needs a way of generating in a standard way according to the U2F and FIDO standards, and you're off to the races, right? Now, provisioning's up to you, who you decide is authorized and how they gain authorization to say, my key token generator, right, is authorized to access this application. up to your implementation, but it certainly solves, we've already talked about many different aspects. The user doesn't have to remember a password, and my password's not stored on someone else's server.
Yes, exactly. And it could be an opt-in for, so today, as I said, today you could release an app with opt-in procedure for your users. They could forget. For new users would have a choice to proceed to create an account with password, regular way,
Yep.
but or use WebAuthn and then use it to authenticate, which is amazing. And yes, and I'm talking about the WebAuthn finally because I thought that's a huge thing. It deserves it deserves more recognition because it's huge. We've been waiting 60 years for this.
Right. Now, Marcin, really quick on the SecFence side, you're implementing WebAuthn and making it easier for enterprises to implement this passwordless or authentication system, correct?
Yeah, exactly. That's what we do. We streamline this process. So again, if you have like multiple applications, you would have your developers upgrade their apps to support WebAuthn. But with SecFence, you can have this broker, this intermediary layer, and we do it in hours. So you can have the same functionality.
Yeah, I've seen the demo. It looks really straightforward to implement. You guys have done a nice job with that. So I wasn't aware that a lot of these open standards existed today, and people can start playing with that. And if you would like to learn more about SecFence, you can visit your website, right? secfence.com. Did we set up a landing page for you? I'm not sure if we did. So sorry, you can visit securityweekly.com/SecFence. All of the information from this segment and all of the stuff that we do with SecFence will be posted there. So make sure you check out the landing page, securityweekly.com/SecFence. And these guys are great. I love you guys. You guys are awesome. They gave me the product demo a while ago now, and I was impressed. And I'm happy that you shared information about the open standards that are available for people to essentially start getting rid of the password. So, Marcin, thank you so much for appearing on Hack Naked News.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
And with that, we'll conclude the show. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching. We'll see you next time.